Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, June 10. It is Wednesday, and glad you're here. I hope you all have had a great week. So I had to change the camera setup, as you can see, so you're going to get way too much of my profile here. But this is the very best I can do. I apologize for those of you who will complain about not being able to see this loom very well. I apologize. I do not have a production studio. I'm doing the best I can. This is free, remember. It looks like you all have been weaving and chatting and from all over the place. Kathleen, that's great. That's so funny. I also am using Burnham's yarn right now. Have fun with that. It's really pretty. I still haven't figured out where that yarn comes from, but my suspicion is brown sheep. Okay, so I just glossed over all of that, but good morning, everybody. If you have a question and you're putting it in right at the beginning before I go live, I'm probably not going to see it, so you'll have to put it in again. Awesome. So, good morning. And we made it to June 10, so that's good. I have the Arras loom here, and Nan will be happy to know I finally put it together and warped it, and I wanted to show it to you. And this is the new loom from Schacht. Let me move my personal picture here so you can see. I'm going to move this down here so you can see the loom. I put it together. I did take a video of unboxing it, and I totally effed it up, so I'm not going to show you that video. If you get the new Schacht loom, it comes in a beautiful long skinny box. There's a way to open the box so the lid just flips up and you can see all the beautiful parts. I somehow didn't realize that, and I opened the end, and anyway, don't do that. If you buy this loom, open the beautiful box the way you're supposed to. So I'm not going to show you that crazy video, but I did put the loom together. Schacht has a really nice video about how to put it together, so I didn't even make a video about that because there's no reason for me to make you a video when Schacht has a better one. And then I warped it. They also have a great warping video. So I will also tell you that they are not paying me to say any of this. They did give me a small consult fee to look at the loom as they were putting it together and give them some opinions about it. But they're not paying me to tell you about it at all in any way. So I just know a lot of people are interested in it and I like it. So that is why I'm telling you about it, not because I am being paid to tell you. Some of you are suspicious about that, so I want to quell your fears maybe. So let's... Kate is reminding us there's a 20% discount on this loom right now for members of ATA. If you're an ATA member, don't forget that there are discounts. So you have to go to the member area of the ATA website. And there are discounts on Mirex looms, this loom, my online classes, Kathy Todd Hooker's books, various other assorted things. There's like 10 or 12 different businesses that offer discounts. So become a member of ATA and you will save money. Actually, if you were ordering this loom, the ATA discount would, you would save more money by becoming a member of ATA and then using the 20% discount to buy this loom, I think, than you would if you just bought the loom from somewhere. Okay, anyway, it's a beautiful loom if you like wood. So, it's gorgeous. It's, I think, made of maple. I think it is, I'm pretty sure it's maple. It has some of that maple, like bird's eye maple, little things in the wood. So it's very pretty. The wood is hard. It's very well made. I was actually surprised at the price of this loom because when I saw the prototype, I was pretty sure that the loom was going to cost a lot more than it does. So just because the pieces are so well machined and incredibly put together with great detail, and like it's just really well constructed. So let me just show you really quick how it works, and then I'll show you what I'm weaving in, whatever. So it works much like a Mirax. The idea is very similar to a Mirax loom. You can't quite see at the top up here, there are two great big screws. So if you've used Schacht's original tapestry loom, they had little wimpy tensioning, which is my biggest complaint about that loom. It's a huge loom with basically zero tensioning because their tension device on that first loom just doesn't work well. This loom is a massive upgrade. The tension is great. So that is the number one best thing that they did to change this loom. So that's great. This is, you can see here, this is the tension bar that is raised up and down by these little pegs. And it has a spring up here. So there's a bar that has and you can see this one's red. There's plastic springs that go over this bar that help you space the warp. Like any spring coil technology, it is not perfect. You still need to measure your warp and make sure it's spaced appropriately. Coils, metal ones can bend. The plastic ones also can be easily pushed out of alignment. It is not a way to, it's not going to hold your warp in place. You need to do that yourself. You need to make sure it's spaced well and increase the tension so that it stays. Also, if your weft tension is crap and it's moving all over the place, it's pushing the warps here and there, a coil of any kind is not going to keep your warps in place, just like a reed on a regular loom wouldn't. Anyway, that is probably unnecessary PSA. So here's the shedding device. I actually really, I like the thing about this shedding device. Can you hear this? There's a little tiny, some kind of little ball bearing in here that clicks, and so it stays in place. There's a little adjustment on the edge so you can make that, the tension, how hard you have to pull to turn it lighter or heavier, but I like it. Has two bars like a Mirax. It actually has the exact same heddles as the Mirax. They're the same size, so if you have Mirax heddles, they're identical. As far as I can tell, they're identical. The one thing Schacht changed on this loom after I saw the prototype that I don't like is that they added this bar to the middle of the, you know how the Mirax things have this peg that the bars go through in the middle of the heddles? That was not on the prototype, and I loved that it wasn't there, and they added it. And so that is actually my only complaint about this loom is that thing in the middle. Structurally, maybe it had to be that way, but it's a big bar, and so it deflects the warp. It's even thicker than the one on the Mirax. So anyway, otherwise fabulous loom. The shedding device goes up and down. There's this thing where you can raise the loom up, so the feet, there's a you can raise it higher so you can put a warping spool underneath it. And then it also has a tilt, so you can tilt the angle a little bit. Anyway, that is that loom. Sharon, I don't know how much it weighs. It's heavy. It's heavy. It's all wood, so 10, I'm no idea. 10 pounds maybe? I don't know. I'm sure that Schacht knows, though. So cool. Kate is qualifying that the Mirax loom discount's only good for new members, and there maybe have been some issues with the Schacht dealers honoring the discount. The difference with Mirax and Schacht is that Mirax, of course, is mostly supplied, not always, but mostly supplied from one place. So it's somewhat simpler for them to offer a discount. Just like it's easy for me to offer a discount on something I'm selling personally because it only affects me. It sounds like maybe the dealers, so Schacht runs through dealers, and it sounds like maybe not all the dealers are able to honor the discount, which is understandable when you think about a small dealer trying to make money off of whatever their small wholesale margin is. But I would ask around and join ATA regardless. There's no bottom spring. That's a great, Masenia is asking, can you get a bottom spring for it? There is no bottom spring for this loom. When I warped it, I put the bottom, this is an ingenious thing about this loom. The bottom bar is tilted. So this bar here is a thin bar, but it's at an angle, which gives you a wider distance between the two warp layers. So there's more distance here than there is on a Murex by maybe a half an inch or 3/4 of an inch. There is no spring at the bottom. I put a ruler here when I was warping to help me space the bottom springs, which I highly recommend. But there is no bottom spring. There is a warping bar. Same deal. The warping bar fits in these little rubber stoppers, which actually hold it quite firmly. It's a little hard to get in and out, which is kind of what you want. So when you're warping it, it doesn't move. And Summer asked how much the tilt is, and I can't show you because I have tied on a stretcher string, and so I can't tilt it right now, but I think it's around, it's only like 10 degrees or something, maybe 20 degrees. It's not a lot. It doesn't tilt flat, Summer. It just tilts a tiny little bit forward and back. The shed, great question, Audrey. The shed does not open wider than on the Murex. I was looking at that last night. It's the same. The shed opening is the same. So yeah, I could go into a bunch of stuff about ridging and all kinds of other things, but I'll just leave it there. It's the same. Kanita says to get the ATA discount, order directly from Schacht. Well, there's a good idea. Just call Schacht. Okay, cool. So let me see if I can, you all can ask more questions about this, but I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit so you can see this silly project I'm doing. You probably can't hear me when I step away also. Okay, so weaving. How about some weaving? I'm doing a project for a friend of mine who likes buzzards. So this is literally a just for fun. Someone who is dear to me asked for a tapestry a while back, and this loom was a good reason to do it. He likes buzzards. I don't know anything about buzzards, but I was not going to try to weave a realistic buzzard, so we're weaving a cartoon buzzard. And I just started this last night, so I don't know exactly what I'm doing with it, but this loom works great so far. This is the first thing I have woven on it since I wove on the prototype, so I maybe you haven't heard the last word about it from me, but so far I think it's a great loom. Haven't gotten as used to like the shedding device and stuff as the other looms. Let me see if I can get a little more light. I'm probably going to blind you all there, but oh, for a real production studio. Nah. So you can see the, maybe this will help. It might just be my eyes. Is this light gonna drive you crazy? Yeah, Susan, that sounds smart to me. I don't really know a lot about I'm just talking off the cuff about the discount and stuff. So I could be totally, I apologize, I could be totally wrong. I don't know how the discount stuff works. I guess I would assume, yeah, that it gets passed. I'm sorry, I don't know how it works. I retract it all. I'm having a lot of trouble with my words lately. I just feel like I'm always saying the wrong stuff. Yes, you would assume if the dealer is offering the discount, it would be passed through the dealer. So hopefully that's what is happening. I don't actually know. Just saying that it's possible you could get a 20% discount through ATA. I think a quick call to Schacht would answer that question if anybody is interested in this loom and you're an ATA member. Oops, I overdid it there. Marilyn says one shed opening seems to be bigger than the other. I hadn't noticed that, Marilyn, but I think you're right now that you say that. This one is smaller than this one, which would explain why I'm having a tiny bit of trouble with ridging here, which I don't ever have on my other looms, unless I'm not paying attention. So yeah, that is something that I think you might be right about that, Marilyn. I haven't played with the adjustment on the edge, so I haven't played with whether that will change that opening or not. But I will play with it. I will have a better idea about this loom the more I weave on this, so undoubtedly you will see it again. Okay. See if I can keep that from flipping around on you. Oh, Judy, I'm trying to remember what I was weaving last week. Isn't that bad? It's only been a week. What was I weaving last week, you guys? Judy wants to know something about whatever I was doing last week, and I can't remember what it was. There are moments where I worry about my memory. Kazuka says she's weaving a bird too. I would like to weave some birds like the birds in my backyard. I think that would be fun. But also not really thinking they will be looking realistic. Don't know if they'll be cartoon birds or not. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for reassuring me. Oh, Marilyn says, what set is the red coil? So the one I'm using, I didn't tell you. I'm using the red coil. It comes with 4 different coils. I think they're 4, 5, 6, and 8 EPI. The red one is 4, and so I liked it better. There is an 8 EPI. Wait, no, the red one must be 5. No, 6. My final answer. The red coil is 6 EPI. It says in the instruction book. This actually comes with a nice printed instruction book, like how to put it together and how to warp it. It's 6 because this is warped at 12. So there's 2 warps in each coil dent. So it's the red one is 6. Oh, Janet. Yeah, brilliant. So Janet's like, there's 2 sheds. One is wider. That's because it's farther from the bottom of the loom. Is that true? Yeah. Sorry, my mind is working on the physics of that. I think that is correct. I mean, obviously it's farther from the bottom of the loom, but that would be why one is wider than the other. So it must actually be true on the Murex also. I just never noticed. Yeah, the shedding bar works the same. This bar is square that the things are on, but it shouldn't make any difference whether it's square or round. The weft is Weaver's Bazaar, 18.2. I'm gonna put this back here, my little dude here. Oh yeah, listen. Thanks, you guys. I'm so sorry. I have that piece right here. Good for me. I was working on the finishing. Okay, now. Right. Okay. Great. Great question. Kathleen, who was it that asked? Judy, asked how I dealt with the wrap. So when I'm doing anything like this where I have a one warp wrap for a while, it's going to be short enough that I don't do anything with it. In this case, I didn't do anything with it. Those are open slits. This is a small piece. It doesn't matter. If this were a really big, heavy piece and it was going to hang sideways, then I never would have done that. But it's a tiny little piece. If I ever did mount it, I would be sewn on a mount. So same thing here with the E's. They're just wrapped and left like that. I might use what I call a bar join. I have called it in the past the Jenny Hansen join. Joan Baxter taught it to me. Where you would put in a piece of invisible thread across there to hold it together. I have done that a lot also, but in this case, they're just open. Thank you for reminding me about the listen piece. How could I forget? And all of you remembered that it was the listen piece. Thanks, Judy. Marilyn, I don't know if there is an adjustment that would even the shed. I was thinking in my head that it had something to do with the tension or something. I don't think it does. I think it's a physics thing, as Janet is saying. I don't think that you will be able to even the shed. I think it's the mechanics of the rotating bar, which is actually kind of a weird modern adaptation for a tapestry loom, having a rotating bar shed. And I'm not a historian and maybe speaking, someone may need to correct me, and I promise I'll be gracious about it. But obviously most tapestry, traditional tapestry looms have other mechanisms of shifting the shed, either with treadles where it's an even, you have shafts and it's an even opening, or you are picking one shed and using leashes, or picking one shed and having an open shed bar on the other one. So as far as I know, this rotating thing came from the Hagen loom, and I believe the Hagen loom had a tiny little bar that turned. So maybe the shed size difference was different. Was less on the Hagen loom. Does anyone know any other looms that use that rotating bar? Besides the Hagen and then the Murex and now this one. Anyway, I can't think of a way you could adjust that really. Oh yeah, cool, thanks. On the Schacht website, the weight of the loom is under specs. Thanks, Sue. I don't know what it is. I would totally be guessing. Okay, so yeah, obviously this loom is, even though I've been seeing versions of it for a while now. It's still pretty new to me, so these are my initial thoughts. Here I'm doing a little I think that the lighting might not have bothered you, but I need a light right here. I'm doing an outline here. That's too much. I got one. I don't like that extra wrap on there. Nope, I'm gonna do it. Okay, I'm doing some little outlines of these feathers. So when I made this thing, I made this cartoon this way, but I drew it on the work tilted a little bit so that I could get these lines horizontal enough to outline in the feathers, and also the beak lines horizontal enough maybe to put an outline in. So those are the kind of things to think about as you are developing a cartoon and weaving on it. How are those lines going to play out? How are you going to be able to weave the thing you want to weave to make it look like you want it to look? And is it even possible? All right, I did just put that in the wrong shed. I'm sure you all can't see that, but let's go to here. These are Weaver's Bazaar mixed bundles. One thing I really like about Weaver's Bazaar is the color choice, obviously, so that these two colors are, I like this bright color, but it's way too bright for an outline. So I toned it way down with a color of the same value, essentially the same value, that's a deep purple. So so it almost looks like black, but it's not black. Now I'm curious about that tapestry loom shedding thing. I don't know who started the Hagen loom. I think it's a Scandinavian loom. It's not been made for a long time, but I think that's where the idea of the Murex shedding device came from. And my memory from seeing Hagen looms in workshops that I've taught is that the shedding device is on a fairly thin rod. I think that loom in a tube loom also has a really thin shedding device that rotates. Summer, if I were weaving a teardrop shape, would I weave it from the side? I probably would, Summer. Just because, well, it depends on how pointy you want the point of it. If you want the point really to come to a point, think about how much narrower you can make the weft in this horizontal direction to come to a point than if it follows the warp. So if you're weaving at 8 EPI, the end of your teardrop shape could be no thinner than the width of this warp wrap. Whereas if it was woven this way, the teardrop shape could be a lot thinner, like, you know, this thin if it's woven sideways, or thinner than that if you decrease the weft size. So if you want it pointy at the tip, then yeah. Might be easier to get the sides an even shape if you wove it upright, but also depends on, you know, like this, how smooth, which way do you want to be smooth? Do you want the bottom to be smooth, or do you want both sides to be smooth if you turned it sideways? That's the same with any shape. Like the reason that I angled this a little bit was so that it's actually not a huge difference from here, and I could have probably woven these this way too, but I did turn it a little bit so that these on the bottom were a little bit flatter. That will make the neck a little bit more stepped, but it's almost always a trade-off depending on what your forms are. Okay. Yeah. What Janet said, you get a smoother curve if you on the sides if you weave it sideways. All right. Trying to figure out how to make this next little, so there's another little bit of a curve for this next little feather. Trying to make that happen. Valley threads on the turns. If you're in the design class, direct application, valley threads on the turns, except for right there. I'm going to outline it so it doesn't actually matter all that much. The shedding device takes a little bit more force to turn the way I have it set than the Murex. So I need to play with that tension on the shedding device to see if I can make it a little bit easier to turn. Not because it's hard physically to turn it, it's just that the repetitive motion of turning it actually might lower the shedding device a little bit too. It can come down quite far. It's always a balance between, am I going to create ridges in the weaving if I bring it down, and how high do I have to reach? Okay. Yeah, I have lots of information. I don't know who that is, EE33. Most of my classes have a lot of information about yarn, but there's a post that's listed on the website that is right at the top right corner of the screen, or right in the middle of the screen, the Change the Shed page on my website. I think, I'll check, but there's a bunch of blog posts about yarn, but there's one post that puts it together and that has suggestions of yarn. There are many yarns. Depends on where you live also. EE33, I don't know where you live. So if you live in the States, it'll be a different answer than if you live in Europe. Okay. Yeah, Mary, that's you guys think the same way I do now. The lowering the shedding device can lead to problems with ridging. I'm also, because this warp is so narrow, the warping bar is twisting a little bit, so I may add a couple threads on the edge. So if you add almost like a supplemental warper, like you would do a guide string but put it on the edge, tie it here and all the way around to stabilize that warping bar so it doesn't tilt, because when the bar's so long, I could have used a shorter bar, actually have been a good solution, but that would have been hard to warp. So the bar will tend to tilt, especially on a narrower warp. Okay. Harrisville Highland or Shetland is a great tapestry yarn depending on the set. It's a good tapestry yarn. Doesn't come in a lot of colors, but Patternayan. I'd go look at the web post. Before I start talking about all the yarns, if you guys get me started on yarn, I'll never shut up. So I'll relink to that post so you don't have to listen to me talk about it forever. Jessica, I don't know those yarns. I've used one Jagerspun yarn at Penland that I didn't like because it was super soft, but I don't know if it's the same one. Oh, interesting. Kanita says that her Arras loom, the shedding device, she had to loosen it a little bit, and that humidity might affect the wood. Fortunately, this loom I think is super adjustable, so that's possible. But am I going to name the loom, Barbara? Probably not. I do not name my looms, but it's fine. Those of you who like to name your looms, you can come up with a good one for this one. I kind of like the name that Schacht gave it. It's not a bad name. Let's see if my sheds are... Oh, look at that. I have not screwed up my sheds, so I can do this. I actually want to put some other colors in here. So I will do that. I think I'm going to add a little bit of these to this. The wings, actually kind of intended to do it there, but it's hard to talk and weave at the same time. Yeah. Okay, Clark, thanks. I will put I'll put that link up, and then I'll just write a little what I'm thinking about the yarn right now. I'll write it out. So just give me a half an hour and I'll put it on the website. Ridges, yeah, Kate. I talk about that a lot in Warp and Weft in part 3, but ask about that in the class. And I could come back to the ridges. I don't want to get into it at 11:08, but I'll write it down. That is an interesting question. I'd like to hear some of your experiences with ridges and weaving too, because there are various reasons for it, and sometimes the reason I think ridging is happening, which is when every other warp pops forward, I will, there are various reasons why that happens. You can watch me try to keep my brain from becoming the 10-minute lecture about ridging. Summer says the warping bar in her Murex tends to go wonky because my weaving... I don't think it's because your weaving tension is uneven, Summer. I don't think it's that at all. I try on these looms with the warping bar to keep the warps that are at the beginning and the end when you're warping the looms. So if the first warp goes down when you put the warp on the loom, make the last warp tie on to that bar so it's coming up. So they're both going in the same orientation. That helps it not twist, but it's not a complete fix. I think it's just going to happen, especially if you have a narrow warp on a wide loom. So I'm going to try that stabilization thing. I think will work on this loom, and I'll let you know. But I don't think it's your weaving. I don't think it has anything to do with your weaving tension, Summer. It may actually also have something to do with the way the shedding device works. Somebody should test this. If you put your shedding device on a loom like this or the Murex with the handle on the other side, does it change the way it twists? So is it about physics, you guys? Physics. Is it about having the, is there more force on the side that the handle is? Is that somehow just enough to like tweak the warps around a little bit? I don't know. Fascinating. The hairspill yarns aren't thin enough to bundle, no. Not unless you're weaving it. Maybe it's 6 cents per inch. But, well, the Shetland is. It just doesn't act. The Shetland doesn't act that well when you bundle it. In my opinion, other people use it. Yeah, so I didn't get to watch cartoons when I was a kid, Linda, but I did develop this by Googling Buzzard cartoons. So there were lots of pictures of Beaky Buzzard, who I had no idea who that was. But yeah, it came from a conglomeration of a few different like kids coloring pages of buzzards. Oh, Laura, great. I had to think about that for a second. Laura says if the first warp thread goes down, the last one should go down too. Yes, which means you will have an even number of warps. So if you have, and that we're talking about that thing to keep the bar from twisting where I like to have the warps, you know, both warps going down or both warps coming up from the knot. Think about, you know, you tie the knot on the bar and have both warps either going up or down. If they're opposite, you'll have an odd number, and there might be a reason you want an odd number of warps. So that's another consideration. In which case, you'll just have to either watch the bar carefully or stabilize it somehow so it doesn't twist. It's a pretty common problem. I see it a lot, so I don't think it's just the few of us who struggle with it. I think that it's fairly common. Jean, you're the best. She says she's learning to embrace combs for the growing hair. I'm going to need some combs. I don't know what to do about my hair, but at this point I'm looking at hats, but it's getting hot, so I don't know. I'm also thinking about cutting it myself, but I'm feeling that might be a super bad idea. That or I need to find a friend who will come and cut it on my deck. Someone who knows something about hair. I haven't found that person yet. Oh yeah, you could do that. Kate, the other Kate says on the Mirax anyway. I don't think you can do it on this loom, but you could put another handle on the other side of the Mirax. So you could have a handle on both sides, and you could switch off which side you were doing. That's a great idea. I'd like to try that. Okay. Yeah. Anyway. It's good to see you all again. I will look at these notes and work on this silly buzzard and a couple other projects I'm working on. And those of you who have the new loom, let us know what you think. I'll probably put something on the blog, but you can put stuff in the comments, or it'll just be interesting to see what y'all think of the loom. The wood is gorgeous, and it is so well made. I can't say enough about. I mean, I know Schacht products are always well made, but this is another great example of a really well made piece of equipment. So that is the thing I love about it. Jean says no. You'll have to tell me why, Jean. Having someone come, cut it myself, maybe? Yeah, that's not a good idea, I don't think. On this loom, Linda, you can turn the shedding device over and put the shedding handle on the other side. You just can't put two on, which is what we were talking about the Mirax. But you could definitely make it so the shedding handle's on the left side. Laura's husband just cut hers. Go, Laura. That's brave. Emily says, no, I cannot cut my own hair. So here we go. Headbands. That sounds like the answer. Thanks, Jocelyn. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Linda, is that if I could find someone who could come and cut my hair outside, maybe it would work out. But I'm not going to get out. What I am not going to do is shave my head. So You can rest assured. Jean, don't give me an excuse to get that loom. You don't. It's okay. We all have. Most of us have plenty of looms, but thanks for coming, you guys. I am clearly well into the chatty phase, so I will see you again next week, Wednesday. We will have another chat about whatever you want, and I will hopefully have this piece mostly woven. Oh, and I'm doing some dyeing right now, so maybe I'll show you what I've been dyeing in the last week. It's great to see you all. Keep weaving. I saw some stuff about weaving groups. If you all have people who can get together on Zoom or just to, smaller groups to like share what you're doing, it's so helpful just to have people to bounce stuff off of. So if that's a possibility, definitely meet up with some people. This is, I guess one good thing about a pandemic is that we have the opportunity to spend more time on Zoom or on FaceTime or whatever other platform you use, but using the internet for good and not evil. So yeah, have a great week. I will see you next week, Wednesday, same time, same place. I don't know what I will bring, but I'll probably show you what happened with this loom and then whatever else I'm working on. Hope you're working on something great, and we'll see you soon. Bye, y'all.